Okay, so starting on page 8 of your homework, the next 4 pages will go through each of the 4 plexuses, and then on page 12 there will be a review of the plexus. Okay, what you should look for and how you should use these. Okay, so for each plexus, you should go through and see if you can identify where they're located. That'll be important for the practical exam. And then you also need to determine what they're innervating. Now keep in mind, each one is going to potentially have a sensory function and a motor function. So I would distinguish those. And this is going to help you know, does this nerve have a sensory function? Is it a motor nerve? That sort of thing. Okay. Now, how to use the resources in your text. First of all, so this is looking at the brachial plexus right up here, and then the individual nerves that come out of it. This is on page 444 of your textbook. And you'll notice that it shows you the location of each of these nerves. And it also gives you some information about what it's innervating. Okay. Now, look through the information. We haven't gone through the muscles yet, so I don't expect you to know the individual muscles. It's more what region of the body is it controlling, either feeling sensations or sending motor commands to. I personally like the lab text a little bit better here, and so let me explain that a little bit more. So this is table 19.2 on page 315 of your textbook. Musculocutaneous is one of the nerves that you need to know. And so you'll notice under here it says muscular branches and cutaneous branches. So if it's controlling a muscle, that means it's a motor branch. Cutaneous is another word for skin. And so this is going to be talking about the sensory branch of that nerve. So this nerve has motor and sensory, so it does both functions. Now you could look here, flexor muscles in the anterior arm, and then you're going to see a whole bunch of muscle names that are not going to make any sense to you because we haven't gone over those yet. And that's okay. What I want you to look for is just the muscles in the anterior arm. Well, you know where that is, right? Because this right here is the arm, and in anatomical position, we are going to know that this is anterior arm. Okay? And so that's all I need you to know. Again, here, cutaneous branches, skin on the anterolateral forearm. Well, we know this lower part of the arm is the forearm. Antero means anterior, so anterior, and also in anatomical position, this portion would be lateral. So this whole region is going to be controlled by the musculocutaneous. Okay, and so that's how to go through and figure out, kind of cut through those Latin muscle names that you don't know and see, okay, what are the words that I do know? So again, muscular branches to the flexor group, you probably don't know what that is, but you do know anterior forearm. Okay, and then we go down here, intrinsic muscles. We don't know what an intrinsic muscle is, but you know what a muscle is, of the lateral palm and digital branches to the fingers. So you definitely know what that is. Okay. So again, just read through these descriptions to get at what are the important motor and sensory functions, and the activities on each page will help you out. I've also put together on your notes packets each of the different plexuses, and there's specific nerves that I definitely want you to be familiar with. So let me go ahead and give you those nerve names. In the cervical plexus, I want you to know the ansa cervicalis, and I want you to know the phrenic nerve. Okay? You may notice whenever you look at the phrenic nerve, and let's go ahead and see if we can see the phrenic nerve. We say diaphragm, sole motor nerve supply. Do we see anything about sensory? No. So what that means for this one is it says nerve receives sensations from what regions of the body? Well, there's no sensory function. So we say no sensory function. Okay. But then it said it was the sole motor supply to the diaphragm, so nerve provides motor commands that causes muscles in which regions of the body to move. Well, that's going to be the diaphragm. Okay. In the brachial plexus, the 5 main nerves that I'd like for you to know are the axillary nerve, the median nerve, the musculocutaneous nerve, the radial nerve, and the ulnar nerve. In the lumbar plexus, you should know the femoral nerve, you should know the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve, and you should know the genitofemoral nerve. In the sacral region, you should know the inferior gluteal, you should know the superior gluteal, you should know the sciatic, the tibial, the common fibular, and the posterior femoral cutaneous, and finally the pudendal. I want to point out that the sciatic nerve is a little bit unique. So let me pull up that plexus here, and let me actually look for a different image. Actually, this image is fine. Okay, so the sciatic nerve is part of the sacral plexus, and you can see that right here. It's one of the largest nerves in your body. It's huge. And you may notice in the chart that it doesn't list either a sensory or a motor function for it. And don't let that confuse you. That's actually correct. What it is that it is actually just a combination of the tibial and common fibular running together through that upper thigh region, and then at the back of the knee it's going to split, and the common fibular goes and innervates its structures, and the tibial goes and innervates its structures. So the sciatic really has no sensory, and it really has no motor. It is just a combination of these two nerves running from the sacral plexus region down to the back of the knee where it divides. Okay. So again, my suggestion is use the activities on the pages, use the charts, use your book and your lab manual, and go through and then check with your instructor to answer any questions that you're uncertain of. And then this right here is trying to put all of the pieces together and seeing, can we put spinal cord and brain all together to move from where we have a sensation all the way up to the brain region that senses it. Or, in this case, the part of the brain region that moves something with contraction of the anterior muscles of the thigh, starting in that brain region and then moving all the way down to the nerve that actually touches or innervates those muscles. So I'll do this first one with you, sensing a painful mosquito bite on the pinky of the right hand. Okay, so right here, a mosquito got you. Okay. So right hand, we would start with the right ulnar nerve. Okay, that's going to go to the brachial plexus. Okay, and that is then going to go to the spinal nerve, to the dorsal root ganglion, to the dorsal root, okay, to the posterior gray horn, to the ascending white tracts of the spinal column, okay, or the spinal cord. Eventually, all sensations first go through the thalamus, and then finally to the left primary somatosensory cortex. So that's going to be the region of the brain that's going to receive that information. Okay, so I just want you to see with each of these scenarios, can you put those pieces together?